Have you ever looked at an old photograph and felt like something didn't belong? In a dusty album from San Francisco in 1907, amid the smiles of a prestigious wedding, a lone figure appears in the mirror behind the bride. Who is that woman? And why is she standing there? Beyond all formality, beyond the fun, it's the beginning of a story hidden in letters, diaries, and architectural blueprints. A story of forbidden relationships, forced decisions and choices. Hearts endure in silence. We follow a young girl bound by family, a talented architect forced to leave the city, and a woman who chooses an independent path between the world of glamour and social convention. Along the way, photographs, intimate messages, and seemingly meaningless details reveal a web of secrets where the past still whispers what people sometimes try to hide. Are you ready to hear this untold story? Rebecca and Dr. Levinson decided to expand their investigation. They went to the San Francisco Public Library's research lab, which houses a vast microfilm collection of local newspapers from the city's golden age. They focused on the months surrounding the Madsen-Hargrove wedding, meticulously documenting every social moment, the engagement, the wedding reception, the charity balls. The December 1906 engagement announcement introduced Elizabeth Hargrove as the talented daughter of William and Margaret Hargrove, while Victor Madsen was the promising heir to a banking dynasty. Both families expressed joy at the upcoming marriage. But Rebecca noticed a strange detail. There was no sign of a previous engagement. Nothing unusual, Dr. Levinson said, but his eyes lingered on the society pages of 1905-1906. Gradually, they discovered that Elizabeth was often seen with other single men. Then, just days before the 1906 earthquake, a small entry appeared. Elizabeth was seen at a concert with Thomas Aldridge, a young architect who had just arrived from Boston. Sources close to her said that an announcement might be forthcoming. Rebecca muttered the name Thomas Aldridge, but there was no follow-up. After the earthquake, Thomas quickly left San Francisco for Chicago, while by December, Elizabeth was engaged to Victor. The question arose, was there an undisclosed connection between the woman in the mirror and Thomas Aldridge? They continued their search in the architectural archives at Berkeley University. Thomas, who had been in San Francisco for only a few months, was immediately involved in the city's rebuilding. Drawings, plans, and detailed notes in his portfolio show that he had designed a house for Elizabeth with her exacting requests for a music room and garden. A house that seemed to be for a young couple, but was never completed. Each letter, each diary page, each drawing began to piece together another picture. A forbidden love, forced decisions, and a moment caught in the mirror. A moment that reflected everything the family wanted to hide. Who was the woman in the mirror? Why did Thomas have to leave San Francisco? And why did Elizabeth marry Victor instead of the man she had once cared for? The answers seemed to lie scattered among the writings, old photographs and memories forgotten for more than a century. In the quiet study room of the San Francisco Public Library, a vast microfilm collection of local newspapers from the Gold Rush era awaited discovery. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson were granted access to these treasures, focusing on the months surrounding the Madsen-Hargrove wedding. The social events of the time were covered in meticulous detail, Dr. Levinson explained as he fed the microfilm into a reader. Engagements, weddings, charity balls, all were carefully recorded. The engagement announcement from December 1906 described Elizabeth Hargrove as the talented daughter of William and Margaret Hargrove and Victor Madsen as the promising heir to the Madsen banking family. Both families expressed joy at the upcoming marriage. But Rebecca noticed something strange. There was no mention of a previous engagement, she said. Dr. Levinson shrugged. Nothing unusual. But look at the society columns of the previous year. They went through each of the 1906 newspapers, finding numerous records of Elizabeth appearing at events, often accompanied by different gentlemen. Then, in April 1906, just days before the earthquake, a small note appeared. Miss Elizabeth Hargrove was seen at a concert accompanied by Mr. Thomas Aldridge, a young architect recently arrived from Boston. A source close to the Hargrove family says an announcement may be forthcoming. Rebecca recalled Mr. Aldridge, but no further announcements followed. Dr. Levinson continued to scan the post-earthquake news. The disaster had interrupted society coverage. In August 1906, they found a short note. Mr. Thomas Aldridge, who had contributed architectural expertise to the reconstruction, had left San Francisco for Chicago. His innovative designs for earthquake-resistant structures had caught the attention of the reconstruction committees. Rebecca frowned. He left abruptly, and just a few months later in December, Elizabeth became engaged to Victor Madsen. Let's look more closely at Thomas Aldridge, Dr. Levinson said. The only other record they could find was in a professional journal. Aldridge Architecture had opened in Chicago, specializing in modern structural design. Aldridge's experience rebuilding San Francisco had helped him develop innovative urbanism methods. We need to find a connection between Aldridge and the wedding photo, Rebecca said. Is the woman in the mirror related to him? The California Architectural Archives at the University of Berkeley kept records of important buildings and designers in the state's history. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson arranged to see any documents related to Aldridge's brief time in San Francisco. His work here was limited but remarkable, explained the archivist, Professor Helen Wu. Aldridge arrived just months before the 1906 earthquake and quickly became involved in the restoration. She handed them a file containing Aldridge's sketches, engineering drawings, and photographs. His proposals for reinforced concrete structures and improvements to building codes showed a vision for urban safety. He worked closely with the Reconstruction Committee. Professor Wu continued, William Hargrove was an important member of the committee, representing business interests in the reconstruction effort. Rebecca flipped through the files looking intently at the photos of Aldridge at construction sites. In one photo taken at a committee meeting, William Hargrove appears in the background next to a young woman. Is that Elizabeth Hargrove? Professor Wu leaned in reading the notes. The woman attended as secretary. The meetings were usually men only, but in the chaos of the post-earthquake period, the rules were sometimes relaxed. Dr. Levinson studied the photograph carefully. So Elizabeth and Thomas may have been in frequent contact because of her father's work on the committee. He said, his eyes thoughtful. And so the secret threads between Elizabeth and Thomas, seemingly invisible, began to emerge. Could these encounters explain the woman in the mirror? Or was there something else hidden behind the gorgeous wedding smile? There's something else, Professor Wu said, pulling out another file. Aldridge had submitted plans for a house in Pacific Heights, commissioned by the Hargrove family, in June 1906. The project was never completed and the contract was withdrawn in September of that year. The detailed drawings revealed an elegant house with innovative safety features and modern amenities. Notes in Aldridge's handwriting revealed specific requests from Miss Hargrove regarding the layout of the music room and the design of the garden. Rebecca frowned slightly. This isn't just an ordinary architectural commission. It looks like this house was designed for a young couple, she thought. Dr. Levinson concluded for her. Perhaps Elizabeth and Thomas dreamed of a future together. Rebecca added her voice low before he suddenly left San Francisco for Chicago. The Hargrove family records kept in acid-free boxes in the Society's temperature-controlled vault have never been fully catalogued. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson spent hours poring over letters, business records, and personal diaries. Most of the material related to shipping, she noted carefully as she turned the pages of William Hargrove's 1906 ledger. Family correspondence was scant. It's not unusual, Dr. Levinson said. Personal matters are often kept separate from business records, but there may still be clues to the context. In a small leather box labeled Elizabeth Personal, they discovered a bundle of letters tied with faded blue ribbon. The earliest letter was dated February 1906, and the handwriting matched the architectural notes they had seen in the Aldridge files. Dr. Levinson read aloud, "My dear Elizabeth, your father's approval of our architectural discussions has provided the perfect cover for our meetings, though I am always distracted from my work when you appear. Your idea of the arched window in the library is exquisite. How fortunate I am to have found a woman whose vision for the future home is exactly like mine." The letters continued through March and April, growing more affectionate. Then came an undated note scribbled hastily on Palace Hotel paper, where many residents who lost their homes in the earthquake were staying. E. Thank God you and your family are safe. The devastation is beyond imagination. Your father's invitation to join the committee is an honor I cannot refuse. In these dark days, the prospect of building a life with you gives me strength. When the city rises, we will rise with it. All my love, T. The letters continued into June, discussing the future house and vague hints of a conversation with her father about matters beyond architecture. Then abruptly, everything stopped. The last letter in the bundle, written in Elizabeth's handwriting, dated August 10, 1906, was never sent. "Thomas, my father forbids me to contact you. He says the affair with Victor has changed everything. I have tried to explain, but his decision has not changed. The banking relationship is everything to him now. I am under constant surveillance. Know that what they say about you is not true. I will find a way." The letter ended unfinished mid-sentence. The Madsen Banking Corporation records made up a large part of the Society's business archives. Rebecca focused on the period 1906-1907, looking for a connection between the two families before the wedding. "This is important," she told Dr. Levinson, carefully turning the pages of the leather-bound financial ledger. In July 1906, William Hargrove's shipping company was in serious trouble after the earthquake. Warehouses were destroyed, insurance claims were delayed, and competitors were entering the market. Dr. Levinson studied the documents. She pointed to a large loan from Madsen Banking to Hargrove Shipping, secured by nearly all of the company's remaining assets. And in September 1906, the arrangement changed. Rebecca continued, pointing to another entry. The loan was restructured as part of a strategic partnership between the two families. Victor Madsen was appointed to the board of Hargrove Shipping. That same month, Thomas Aldridge left San Francisco for Chicago, Dr. Levinson noted. And soon after Elizabeth's engagement to Victor appeared, Rebecca flipped to another document, the minutes of a private meeting between William Hargrove and Charles Madsen, Victor's father. "Listen to this," she said, reading a note aloud. "The Eco matter involving VM and TA. Both parties agreed to keep it confidential for the mutual benefit. Legal matters handled by Johnston and Associates. Terms agreed by all. A matter between Victor Madsen and Thomas Aldridge," Dr. Levinson mused. "Significant enough to require legal action, and possibly related to Thomas's sudden departure as well as Elizabeth's change of course," Rebecca added. They continued their search, uncovering correspondence between lawyers for both firms. One letter mentioned the unfortunate incident at the Olympic Club and the need to avoid scandal that could damage the family's reputation. "We're getting closer," Dr. Levinson said. "But we still don't know who the woman in the mirror is or what event changed Elizabeth from Thomas to Victor." Rebecca carefully put the documents back. "There's one source we haven't tried. The San Francisco Chronicle maintains a private collection of photographs, many of which have never been published. If an event was significant enough to change the trajectory of the two families, it was probably captured on film. The Chronicle's photographic archives were located in another facility in the city." After explaining their research to the curator, Rebecca and Dr. Levinson were given access to the glass negatives and prints from 1906-1907. Social events were often photographed, though not all were published, the curator explained. Especially prominent families like the Hargroves and Madsens. They looked at pictures from charity balls, business openings, and public events. In many of them, Elizabeth Hargrove stood close to her father. In the spring of 1906 photos, she looked lively and cheerful. But in later photos, her expression became more subdued and reserved. "This looks interesting," Rebecca said, holding up a print from April 1906. An earthquake fundraiser at the Fairmont Hotel. It showed Thomas Aldridge chatting with a group that included William Hargrove and his daughter. Standing a little further away was Victor Madsen, his eyes clearly showing discomfort. Next to Victor was a young girl who bore an uncanny resemblance to him and the Madsen family chin. It could be Victor's sister, Dr. Levinson guessed. The archivist checked the notes on the back of the photo. Yes, it was Catherine Madsen, Victor's sister. They found Catherine in many photographs from the period, often standing near Thomas Aldridge. In one from the fundraiser, they were chatting animatedly, standing closer than Victorian decency would allow. Rebecca began, "I wonder," and stopped when she spotted another photo. This time from an unpublished society archive, August 1906. The photograph shows the aftermath of a fight outside the Olympic Club. Thomas Aldridge is held back by two men, his clothes disheveled. Victor Madsen is helped to his feet, a handkerchief pressed to his bloody face. At the edge of the image, Catherine Madsen stands, her face both worried and angry, reaching out to Thomas but held back by an older woman. "Whatever happened here changed everything for both families," Dr. Levinson said quietly. "And I think I know who the woman in the wedding mirror is," Rebecca added. "We need to learn more about Catherine Madsen." The California Women's History Association maintains records of prominent women, including diaries, letters, and oral memories. Rebecca and Dr. Levinson discovered that Catherine Madsen had donated the material in 1967 before her death. Catherine never married, according to the association's director. She founded the Madsen Foundation for the Arts in 1920 and became a major patron of California women artists, but she kept her private life private. Catherine's collection includes letters, foundation records, and a small diary from 1906-1907. Rebecca carefully turned the thin pages written in elegant handwriting. One entry from March 1906 met T. again at committee meeting. Father still dismisses my interest in architecture, but T. answered my questions with genuine respect. His vision of the rebuilding of the city was both practical and beautiful. They talked for more than an hour after the meeting. The following entries document a growing relationship, seemingly moving toward something deeper. Catherine writes of walks through the recovering city, discussing architectural theory, and Thomas encouraging her to develop her artistic talents, contrary to her family's expectations that she find a suitable husband. A diary entry from July 1906 reveals T confides that her relationship with E has become complicated. Her father was initially encouraging, but now seems to be steering her towards V. The banking relationship changes everything. T is caught between her feelings and her professional position. I console her somewhat, but my heart is divided. By August, the tone of her writing has changed completely. The terrible scene at the club destroyed everything. V's accusations were unacceptable. T defended my honor like a true gentleman, but V spun the events to his own liking. Father believed V's version completely. A lawyer was called. T was forced to leave San Francisco. I was forbidden to contact him and was sent to Miss Margaret in Boston until things calmed down. My letter to T was returned unopened. The last diary entry. May 17, 1907, the day before the wedding, tomorrow E will marry V, cementing the business arrangement my father and Mr. Hargrove have arranged. E goes through the preparations like a sleepwalker. V appears to be in the ascendant. I promised father I would attend and keep up appearances, but he cannot rule my heart. I have written a last letter to T in Chicago. Perhaps when I return to San Francisco, I can build a life of my own, though not the one I had hoped for. The June 1907 San Francisco Call Society page revealed a small detail that caught Rebecca's attention. Miss Catherine Matson has just returned from a long visit to relatives in Boston. She attended the wedding of her brother Victor to Elizabeth Hargrove last month and is now settled in her apartment on Russian Hill, where she intends to open a salon for artists and architects interested in the rebuilding of our great city. Rebecca noted silently that despite all that had happened, Catherine had returned for the wedding. Further research showed that she had indeed established her independence from her family. By 1910, Catherine had opened a small gallery showing the works of female artists and architects. According to the society pages, Victor and Elizabeth maintained minimal contact with her, and Catherine was largely absent from Madsen family events. A small article from the Chicago Architectural Review, April 1908, revealed more. Thomas Aldridge, whose innovative designs for new public buildings have received much praise when asked about his inspiration, Aldridge cited his brief but powerful time in San Francisco. The resilience I saw there, both in architecture and in people, continues to inspire my work. When asked about rumors of a return to California, he simply said, "Some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt." Dr. Levinson found records showing Catherine made several trips to Chicago from 1908-1910, officially attending architectural exhibitions. During the same period, her foundation funded scholarships for young architects to research earthquake-resistant construction methods. "The connections are becoming clear," Rebecca said. "But it's still not clear whether Catherine is the woman in the wedding mirror." The answer comes from an unlikely source, the memoirs of wedding photographer Henri Dubois, published in 1925. In a chapter on memorable engagements, he writes that the Madsen-Hargrove wedding presented unique challenges. The family demanded perfection, with specific instructions on who would be in the spotlight and who would be in the background. During formal portraits, an uninvited guest briefly appeared, the groom's estranged sister. Her presence caused tension, though the bride seemed relieved to see her. "I took a picture before she was ushered out. When I reviewed the negative, I noticed her reflection in the mirror behind the wedding party, a ghostly reminder of family secrets that the camera could never completely hide." The San Francisco Historical Society's gallery features photographs, letters, and artifacts titled "Reflections: The Untold Story Behind a 1907 Wedding." The centerpiece is a large wedding photograph with its own explanation of the reflection in the mirror and the woman who appears in it. Next to it is Catherine Madsen's diary, open to the wedding day, and Thomas Aldridge's architectural drawings for the house Elizabeth planned to build. "These studies tell a complete story," Dr. Levinson said at the opening. A chance observation in the wedding photograph leads us to a complex story of financial need, family pressure, and thwarted relationships. Rebecca continued, "The evidence showed that Thomas Aldridge had once pursued Elizabeth Hargrove with her father's approval. After the earthquake devastated the Hargrove Shipping Company's finances, William Hargrove sought relief through his relationship with the Madsen family. And that relationship came with an unspoken condition, a marriage between the two families." Dr. Levinson added, "Thomas developed a deep relationship with Catherine Madsen Victor's sister. Whether it was emotional or purely intellectual cooperation, no one knew. What is certain is that Victor used this relationship to create, scandal-provoke Thomas into a public confrontation and provide a reason to force him to leave San Francisco." Rebecca pointed to the wedding photo. Catherine's appearance reflected only in a mirror was her last act before building an independent life. Elizabeth, bound in a marriage for financial security rather than love, appears cheerful and formal in the photograph. But given the context, we can see the tension in her demeanor, especially when aware of Catherine's presence. The exhibition also traces the trajectory of all of them, Elizabeth and Victor's formal but distant marriage, Catherine's brilliant career as an arts patron, Thomas's success in architecture in Chicago, and the eventual decline of both the Hargrove and Madsen families despite their union. What makes this photograph so compelling, Dr. Levinson concludes, is not just the story it tells, but the way it tells it. The official story is in front of us, a proper marriage between two prominent families. But the truth lurks behind it, captured in a reflection that was never meant to exist. It reminds us that historical photographs not only record what people want us to see, but sometimes inadvertently record what they want us to hide. In the corner of the room, one last photo is displayed, Catherine Madsen in 1920, opening a gallery in San Francisco, standing next to an architectural model. The designer of this innovative work, Thomas Aldridge of Chicago. Their professional collaboration began 13 years after their wedding, a reminder that sometimes bridges, no matter how burned, can eventually be rebuilt.